Hello, my fellow Americans. Welcome to What's the Context, the podcast where we tear through the propaganda, cut through the misinformation, and get straight to the unfiltered truth. My name is Nantambu Foley. I've worked in Congress, spent 2 years organizing in the South Side of Chicago, and served as the body man of Congressman John Jackson, the son of Reverend Jesse Jackson. I earned my degree from the University of Chicago in economics, and I'm currently pursuing a master's in political science at the University of Munich. My experience in government, grassroots activism, and academia has shaped the way I see the world. And on this podcast, I bring that perspective to you, the viewers. No spin, no fluff, just raw, unfiltered analysis of the political landscape. Today, we're diving into a topic as old as human civilization itself, scapegoating. It's been used to justify war, persecution, genocide, and systemic inequality. But most of all, scapegoating provides a convenient way to avoid dealing with real systemic problems by placing the blame on a singular person or group. From biblical times to modern politics, from medieval witch hunts to social media cancel culture, let's unpack the psychology and the power of the scapegoat. Picture this. You're in an ancient village. A drought has withered the crops. Livestock are dying en masse, and the people are growing desperate. Tensions are rising, and someone must be blamed. Enter the village misfit, the heretic, the outsider, accused of bringing bad luck, of angering the gods. The villagers, needing a target for their frustrations, exile them, or worse, put them to death. The rains come a few weeks later, and the people believe they have been saved. This isn't just a hypothetical. The ritual of the scapegoat goes back thousands of years. In the book of Leviticus, the sins of an entire community were placed on the head of a goat, which was then driven into the wilderness, symbolically taking internal sins and putting them on an external entity. And this provided psychological relief, an explanation for suffering and misfortune. But as humanity progressed, so did the practice of scapegoating. The goat became a person, a group, or a nation, anything that could absorb the collective guilt or anger of a people. Scapegoating is not just superstition, it's about power. Leaders, governments, and institutions have long used scapegoats as a way to maintain control. When society is in crisis, it's much easier to direct public anger toward a minority group than to acknowledge real systemic failures. We see the pattern throughout history. In medieval Europe, Jews were blamed for the Black Death, leading to violent pogroms and mass expulsions. In the early 20th century, after World War I, centuries-old anti-Semitic conspiracy theories unify a broken country. The Jewish people became the ultimate scapegoat, blamed for economic ruin, social decay, and military failure. We all know how that ended, with one of the most horrific genocides in human history. But let's not pretend this is just a relic of the past. No. America has its own deep history of scapegoating. During the Great Depression, Mexican immigrants were blamed for job losses and forcibly deported by the hundreds of thousands. After the catastrophic event of 9/11, Muslims became the primary scapegoats for America's fear, leading to mass surveillance, the erosion of civil liberties, and violence against innocent people. And today, political leaders still invoke fear of outsiders, whether it's migrants, racial minorities, or political opponents, as a way to distract them from economic inequality, failing infrastructure, and government corruption. So why do people fall for it? Why is scapegoating so effective? The answer lies deep in human psychology. Scapegoating provides an easy answer to complex problems. When a country faces economic turmoil, instead of acknowledging policy failures, politicians can blame immigrants for stealing jobs or causing the crisis itself. When crime rates rise, instead of addressing poverty, systemic inequality, or lack of education, leaders can blame an entire racial and ethnic group for being predisposed to violence or barbarism. For example, think of how a black male is portrayed in the media. They're called a brute or a violent being, a menace to society. It's simple. It's emotionally satisfying. And most importantly, it requires no real effort to change anything. But beyond its simplicity, scapegoating is an incredibly effective tool because it taps into deeply ingrained stereotypes, prejudices, that have been cultivated over generations and reinforced by media, culture, and history. These stereotypes already exist in the collective minds, making them easy to weaponize. The idea of the dangerous outsider, or the criminal element within the society, is not new. It's a recycled narrative that has been used for centuries, from medieval witch hunts to McCarthy-era paranoia. The same rhetoric that demonized Jewish communities in pre-war Europe was later repackaged to target Black and Latino communities in the U.S. during the rise of mass incarceration. Scapegoating thrives on repetition. By invoking the same well-worn tropes, the public doesn't need to be convinced from scratch. They've already heard the story before. Politicians, media figures, propagandists, spin doctors don't have to build an entirely new enemy. They just have to breathe new life into an old one. The result is a cycle where these prejudices are continuously reinforced, becoming self-perpetuating myths that justify exclusion, discrimination, and even violence. And because scapegoating often aligns with pre-existing biases, people are more likely to accept these explanations without questioning them. It provides a sense of certainty in an uncertain world, allowing individuals to stay in their belief systems that their struggles are not due to systemic failures, economic complexities, but because of a clear, definable enemy. It turns societal problems into an us versus them battle, redirecting anger away from those in power and toward the group that is often powerless to fight back. Ultimately, scapegoating doesn't just sustain stereotypes, it strengthens them by ensuring they remain useful tools for future manipulation tactics. The faces of the enemy may change over time, but the strategy remains the same. Exploit fear, fuel resentment, and maintain control. Projection isn't just a word your partner throws at you when you're losing an argument. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychiatrist, once said, "Political agitation in all countries is full of such projections, just as much as the backyard gossip of the little groups and individuals." In other words, it's easier to point a finger outward than to look inward. And let's not forget the good versus evil narrative. Scapegoating isn't just about blame. It's about creating a villain. The enemy is always more effective when they're seen as all-powerful, cunning, and genetically dangerous. The more powerful and monstrous they are, the easier it is to justify extreme measures against them. Humanization plays a crucial role in this. If the enemy is seen as less than human, whether they are portrayed as criminals, parasites, or some secret cabal pulling the strings behind the scenes, then the public is more likely to accept the draconian policies against them. After all, why should mercy be extended to those who are barely human in the first place? History has shown this time and time again, from propaganda portraying Jewish people as rats in Nazi Germany to American war propaganda efforts depicting the Japanese subhuman monsters to modern rhetoric that paints entire groups as inherently violent or corrupt, such as the Kurdish people in Turkey or the immigrants in Europe. Governments and media know this well. When people are divided, they are easier to control. When people believe that the enemy is responsible for their suffering, they stop looking at the real sources of power and corruption. They don't demand better policies or systemic change. They demand stronger crackdowns on whoever they've been told is responsible. It's not about solving problems. It's about diverting public outrage in a way that maintains power. So who are the scapegoats of today? Let's take a look at the patterns in modern politics and society. Immigrants are blamed for crime and job losses, despite studies consistently showing they commit fewer crimes than native-born citizens and contribute to economic growth. Black and Latino communities are blamed for poverty and crime, even though the real root causes, historical redlining, mass incarceration, and economic disenfranchisement, are ignored. Journalists are blamed for spreading the fake news, not because they're lying, but because they expose inconvenient truths for those in power. Environmental activists are blamed for economic downturns, despite the fact that unchecked corporate pollution and climate disasters pose a far greater financial threat. Feminists are blamed for destroying the family unit, even though rising economic instability and lack of social support are the real culprits. But here's the thing. Scapegoating isn't just a weapon against the targeted group, it's a distraction. While society points fingers at immigrants, minorities, or marginalized groups, the real culprits, corporate greed, wealth inequality, and government failures continue on. And the ones in power, they're more than happy to keep the blame game going because it keeps them safe. So, how do we fight back against scapegoating? How do we keep from falling into the same manners of thinking and behaving? Recognize the patterns. Whenever a leader or media figure blames a group for society's problems, ask, what's the real issue being ignored? Demand accountability. Hold leaders accountable for real solutions instead of empty blame games. No more blaming the immigrants and no more blaming the minorities. We need to start fixing the issues. Fact check everything. Scapegoating often relies on misinformation. Challenge it with facts. What is the information that's being withheld from you in that news report or that government report? Just think about it. Resist division. Remember that the working class, regardless of race or nationality, share the same struggles. The real enemy is inequality and corruption, not each other. We need to remember that we stand together as a people. We cannot be fighting amongst ourselves when others play games above our heads. Support critical thinking and media literacy. The more informed people are, the harder they are to manipulate. History has shown us that the consequences of scapegoating can be catastrophic, but history also shows that societies can learn, can resist, and can break the cycle. The question is, will we, as a nation of people in America, break this cycle? That is all for today's episode of What's the Context. If this episode resonated with you, if you found yourself recognizing these patterns in the world around you, share it. Start a conversation. The more we understand the forces shaping our society, the less power they have over us. Until next time, question everything, but seek the truth. Thank you. Have a nice day.